What's up, everybody? Welcome back for another awesome episode of the FIT40 podcast. Today, we got 3 great topics lined up. But before we get into that, just want to get ahead of this and apologize that my voice is pretty raspy. I totally lost my voice last week and it's starting to come back, but still fighting something. So just so you know, if I'm a little raspy, if I'm clearing my throat, I'm going to do my best to edit that stuff out so it's nice and smooth to listen to on your guys' end. But again, apologies ahead of time. So let's dive in. First, we're going to be talking about how to thrive this December. And then we're going to take it a little step deeper and talk about some mindset stuff that is also going to help a ton around this time of the year. And then last but not least, I have a little surprise. And if you're a member of the FIT40 family, you probably know what it is, but I'm not going to spoil it. So let's dive in. First, how to thrive this December, because this topic is coming due to a lot of people around this time of the year, fresh off of Thanksgiving. There's a lot of people that are like, okay, what's the detox? What's the cleanse I need to hop on to undo all of the horrible things I just did the past however many days? And that's probably the worst thing you could do when it comes to a number of different things. First and foremost, your relationship with food. Next is just your behavior overall when it comes to your diet, when it comes to your nutrition. And number 3, just assuming that this is going to make up for stuff like that. This is what happens when we have a really restrictive mindset where it's, okay, I'm going to go all out on these holidays and then I'm going to go super restrictive to make up for it. And that's going to balance the scales somehow. Not how that works. All right. There's a lot of residual effects that come from doing things like that. When you jump on a detox or a cleanse, it reinforces this idea that to be healthy, to be at the weight that you want, to do the things that you want to do, you need to feel like shit. You need to be going to the bathroom 24/7, 365 for a day or two to clear out the toxins, to make sure that mentally you have rid yourself of all of the negative things that you have done over the however long. Okay, you don't need to go this route. You don't need to feel like shit. You don't need to feel dehydrated. You don't need to avoid food for however long just to get back to where you were. Because in reality, when it comes to the amount of weight that you could put on in a couple of days, it's abysmal. It's actually usually less than about a pound or 2. And it's due to the fact that, number 1, when we have extra food, we usually move more. Number 2, it takes calories to burn that extra food. And number 3, our body already burns a ton of calories already. So for you to really get to that point, you need to stuff yourself to the point where it's painful. And then if that is the case and you're doing that for days and days and days, that's probably a different issue. But for most people who don't push themselves into that painful point where they're super duper full and you're just indulging a little bit, having an extra cookie, having an extra glass of wine, it really doesn't do enough damage to warrant the fact that you need to do some sort of extreme measure like a detox or a cleanse. In reality, most people would be better served if they just get back to basic stuff like calories, like their habits. And when I say calories, that doesn't mean that you have to count calories. It just means you need to manage them in one way or another through some sort of a meal structure or some simple rules to follow, stuff like that, where you are in a position where your body is able to either maintain where it's at, if that's your goal, burn body fat and lose weight if that's your goal, or maybe even build more muscle by staying in a little bit of a surplus. Whatever satisfies your goals. There's no one way to do this. It just comes down to figuring out what lines up with your goals and what your values dictate those goals to be. So if you don't have some sort of understanding around that and you're just throwing shit at the wall saying, I'm just going to do a detox, I'm going to do a diet, I'm going to do this, that's probably the reason you're stuck. That's probably the reason that you haven't been able to keep the weight off, because there's no true understanding of your body. There's no real understanding of exactly how this game works. You need to be able to balance everything out and treat this more like a puzzle piece in a giant picture rather than this being the end all be all every single meal that you eat. And that's where a lot of people are, unfortunately, but we're going to talk about how to get away from that. So like I said, figure out those calories and habits. When it comes to calories, you can calorie count. That is one way. Another way that you could do that is having a simple meal structure, like having one standard size plate 2 to 4 times a day. So you could have 2 big meals, 4 kind of small meals, 3 medium size, whatever you want, and throw in a snack or 2 in there if you really, really want it. But one of the best things you could do that helps control for calories is not to snack at all and get all your calories from meals. That's one of the big reasons a lot of people lose weight on vacation. It's because you don't have your entire pantry at your disposal. You're going out to eat, and then you're not really eating until you go out to eat again. So let's take some tips from these things that usually result in us being able to maintain or lose weight, if that's your goal, and let's use it. So no snacks could be a really good one too. Another one could be the traditional no food after 6 or whatever. So having that distinct cutoff line. This is why certain things like intermittent fasting work, because there's a very definitive start stop. Okay, so if you have that and it works in your favor, great. Just pick something that keeps you in check and you're not just basically flying off the wheels, flying off the handles and saying, I'm going to eat whenever and however much I want, because that's a lot of people right now who have that case of the fuckets until January 1st. They're like, I'm just going to eat whatever. There's a million chocolates lying around the house. There's a million little candies and things like that. I'm just going to pick at it all day, not really care. And then when dinner comes around, I'll have a little something, but then I'm pretty much going to have a 50% diet of the treats lying around and 50% of the real food, when we want to make sure we're eating most of the good stuff most of the time. All right. So let that be the focus. Let's get our body the stuff that it wants, not deprive it like crazy. Get it the stuff that it wants, the lean proteins, the veggies, the fiber, all that stuff that we know we should be eating, but we're avoiding it by detoxing. All right. And then the other thing too, when it comes to strategies, is understanding meals out. When it comes to restaurants, when it comes to parties and things like that, ask yourself, is this a celebration or is this a meal out? And what's the difference? Celebration is it's something special. It's a special event of some sort that you really don't want to be thinking about food. You just want to be present and in the moment and enjoying your time as best as you possibly can, because it is a significant occasion. Now, number 2, eating out. It's just another meal that happens to be cooked by somebody else. When you are celebrating, that's a time to be like, you know what? Nutrition's important, but it's just not important for this meal at this time. I'm going to eat what I want to eat, drink what I want to drink, and the main focus is going to be me feeling present, me being here with my friends, family, whoever, and enjoying this specific time. Now, when you have a meal out, you say, okay, listen, this is not a celebration. It just happens to be a situation where I am not in control of the food because I had to be here, or I felt guilty not showing up, or whatever. You're there and you're just like, I could take it or leave it if I was actually here or not. And that's when you're like, okay, I'm going to make the best decision possible because this is just another meal. This is a meal that should be mostly high quality stuff. So whatever you have there, if you have high quality options, lean on them. If you're going out to dinner, get the salmon or the chicken. Okay. If you're at a party, instead of the pizza, opt for something with a little bit more protein, like a sub sandwich or the wings. It's not ideal, but it's higher protein than pizza would be. And those are really the decisions that you want to make, where it's like, okay, I'll do the best that I can. And if you can do that, bare minimum, you will maintain. If you could do all that stuff and stay active in some way or another, whether that be hitting a step goal, getting X amount of workouts in a week, you will bare minimum maintain. You might build some muscle. You might burn some body fat, and you might be closer to your goal come January 1st, but you definitely won't be further away from your goal by getting a gigantic case of the fuckets and saying, I'm not going to do anything until January 1st. All right. So if you want to thrive this December, focus on that. Get some sort of a structure to stick to, some simple one, whether it's 2, 3, 4 meals out of the day. And then make sure that you have habits that support that structure, that allow you to stay on track, and then stay active if you can, and mentally be in a good place too with, is this celebration or is this just another meal out? And that's what I want to move on to next, which is the mindset, because this is a big thing around this time as well. When it comes to the self-talk, again, there's a lot of people right now who probably are in the detox and cleanse group that are having really negative conversations in their head right now, saying, I've been so bad. Why can't I stick to anything? Why do I always fall off? Why am I so horrible? And that's almost worse than doing the deed of eating whatever the heck you want. It is worse, because what does that lead to? It leads to feeling like you're less than. It leads to feeling like you're worthless. It leads to basically embodying this person that is a lesser version of you. And what does that person do? They eat whatever they want. They don't exercise at all. They get depressed. They fall into this hole of despair. And that in itself leads to maladaptive behaviors like the ones I just mentioned. So there's no point in getting down on yourself, especially when physiologically there's no point to. Like there is, it takes so much effort. It really does. It takes so much effort to gain X amount of body fat in only those couple of days that were Thanksgiving through the weekend. Okay. The thing that's the killer is doing it for a long time. And that mindset of getting down on yourself is what's going to enforce doing this stuff for a long time. All right. So what do we do to fix that? Number one is control that narrative in your head. It can help to almost separate these feelings into different categories or different names. So for example, like when I find myself getting super duper anxious, because that's unfortunately my vice, is I get very, very anxious. I'll separate that and be like, that's anxious Brian. That's not the actual Brian that makes the decisions. That's just anxious Brian. And he's going to talk and talk and talk, and then he'll eventually leave. Okay. Same as any other feeling that comes through. Anybody who's been angry has known that, hey, angry me is probably not the best version of me, but it always ends up going away because once you flame out, you kind of come back to your center. And this is a big thing that we want to try and do, is control who gets the microphone, so to speak. And another thing to keep in mind too is when you are getting down on yourself, one of the best reframes that I've found, especially for myself, is would you say these things to your best friend? Like, would you say to your best friend, you are a worthless piece of shit? Oh my God, look at your belly. Oh my God, you cannot fit into these jeans. You are horrible. No, nobody would ever say that to their best friend. All right. Unless you're trying to play it off like tough love, in which case don't do that, because shame actually does the opposite when we're trying to create behavior change. And that's the key thing that we want to talk about too, is the fact that shame doesn't work. You telling yourself that you suck, you telling yourself that you're no good at this, all it does is reinforce the fact that you're never going to achieve your goals. And if you want to start achieving those goals and you want to start staying on the wagon more frequently and finally get the results that you want, you got to be nice to yourself. You got to give yourself some grace. You got to understand that, hey, sometimes human things happen. Humans are going to be humans. We are going to indulge a little bit sometimes. We are going to fall off the plan sometimes. But if anybody caught the episode with Troy Taylor, by the way, if you haven't, go back and listen. He is the director of human performance at Tonal, and he has worked with literal Olympians. I asked him straight up, I'm like, hey, Olympians, these people that are the top of the top, like dedication and physical ability, do they fall off the wagon? And he started chuckling. He's like, absolutely. They just get back on the wagon faster than most people. And that's the key, is to be different by being the person that gets back on the wagon faster than most people do. Okay, don't wait till January 1st. Just get back on it today. Get back to the normal routine. And if your normal routine is not supporting the goals and what you want to achieve, then you got to change the plan. You got to change the norm. But start with how you talk to yourself. Just start by saying, you know what? It's okay. This shit happens sometimes, but I got to get back on. I got to start moving a little bit more. I got to eat the things I want to eat, because as soon as I get back to doing that, I'm back on the path. I'm going to get closer to my goals starting today. All right. And if you need a little bit of a kick in the butt, that is what, last but not least, the third topic is all about, which is the challenge coming up in the FIT40 family. We're going to be focusing on portion control, which is one of the big things that fall off around this time of year. And it's what we just talked about, where you have some sort of a meal structure where it's like, okay, I'm going to eat X, Y, and Z at this time. And what this is going to do is allow you to have some flexibility, and it's also going to allow you to keep the portions in a good place where your calories are going to be in a good place, where if your goal is to maintain or lose body fat going into this next year, this will help you do that. And even if you maintain, but you solidify the habits that we work on, it's going to put you in such a better spot come January 1st compared to doing nothing. So what we're going to do is focus on two things. There's two levels to this. Level one is the one plate rule. Basically, you get 2 to 4 meals throughout the day where you get a standard size plate. Now, two things here. When it comes to what you put on the plate, there's no white space. So you need to make sure that you're not eating pigeon portions. You need to fill the plate in some way or another. And number 2, when it comes to level 2, we're going to add some protein. So level 1 is just getting 1 plate meals 2 to 4 times throughout the day. If you can do that, check that box. And then level 2 is if you can get at least 20 grams of protein on the plate, that you can check off as well. And the goal, as always, with these challenges is to check off as many as possible. And all I ask is that you do your best, because basically anybody who submits their progress on the final day is going to be entered in to win the prize, which is going to be that $50 Amazon gift card. Now, anybody who completes a perfect sheet gets 2 entries. So the goal is to do your best and to get as many days as possible. But just by doing your best, you will be able to compete flat out. So if you're interested and you don't want to get a case of the fuckets, okay, you don't want to, where is, my God, my notes are pretty brutal. Okay. If you don't want to get a case of the fuckets, if you don't want to have this seasonal area of the year where you just completely fall off, if you want to have some sort of direction and community support and all this good stuff that comes with the challenge, get your butt in the FIT40 family. You got until December 8th to sign up, and then we're going to be running it the 9th through the 22nd. So it's going to be a blast. I know everybody loves these challenges month after month after month. They're totally free to sign up, so no reason not to join in. All right. If you guys have any questions on that, again, go into the Facebook group, find me on Facebook, give me a DM or shoot me a DM, and I'm happy to answer any questions. Or you could email me, brian@fit40coaching.com. And I'm also happy to answer questions there as well. But that's it for today. So thank you for putting up with my raspy voice and me being a little scatterbrained today. But we made it. We made it. And I appreciate you making it all the way through. Until next time, guys, I will see you on Friday for the next episode. But until then, go kick some ass. I'll see you later.